Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network. Welcome back to the show. Liezel Lane joining us here once again, myteenlifecoach.com. Again, I apologize. I'm very nasal. I can't smile as much, but I'm smiling inside. Glad to have you back here on the show. Would you mind doing your amazing introduction?
Of course, Jill. Gosh, and I hope you feel better soon.
Thank you.
I remember doing that when I was like super young, but after that, I never had sinus issues again. So
that's what I'm hoping. But then
yeah.
I didn't realize until yesterday that there's all packing in my nose that is still stuck. And that's why she has to see me next week. She's got to remove it. They called me last night and I said, is that why I'm extra nasally? I'm like, I feel like it's swollen. She's like, we have all dressing in there. I'm like, oh, okay. But everything will be okay. Thank you.
Gosh, you'll be fine. You'll be fine. So so welcome everybody. I am with the amazing host, Jill Nicolini. My name is Liezel Lane, and I'm from myteenlifecoach.com. We work with teens and parents alike to navigate these really difficult times, especially for Generation Z and our upcoming alphas. Working a lot with parents lately. So if you ever need help or guidance, please let me try that again.
That's okay.
Feel free to reach out to us at www.myteenlifecoach.com. We're on all the social medias. You can just literally type in our name, and we have parenting mastermind group sessions. We have, lately I've been doing a lot of kind of custom sessions for executive parents who are high profiled and super demanding lifestyles and still having to be parents of teenagers. So there's a lot of interesting changing dynamics going on. And I get to visit with Jill every single week, which is so
Thank you. And it was exciting. I know you had a nice little vacation, a little hiatus, well needed. I got to meet one of your other coaches, Cameron, who was awesome as well. Are you over the high of the vacation now? Are you back in the grind? Or are you missing that whole life overseas?
Oh no, I'm back in. Well, especially because I think most of the kids had full break over Columbus Day weekend. So some kids like kind of had a 3 or 4 day break.
Yeah, you're right.
It's kind of nice. I was actually giggling. I had my daughter's, my 19-year-old came over because she's also feeling run down and, got a cold and so forth. And so I said, well, come home, have dinner. And I had a giggle because it inspired me for my topic today, because my husband's out of town. My mom came over to have dinner. So you had 3 generations of women sitting at the dining room table. And of course, we're talking about lots of interesting, debatable things. My mom is at the ripe age of 69, back at college, getting her associate's degree. And then, my daughter is a sophomore/junior at the same university getting her degrees. And then you've got our 16-year-old at home. So of course you can imagine the kind of debate and interesting conversation these 3 generations are having at the dinner table. So of course our debates become pretty lively, and the conflicts are always pretty interesting with, the different power struggles between my mom being like a boomer, and it's like, you need to be nice and polite and quiet. And then there's me, who's like, as long as you're respectful, it's okay to be a little bit debatey and stuff. And then the girls are just like, oh my gosh, you guys are so inconsistent. And so Mila ended up recording some of this dynamic. She played it to me afterwards. And when I looked at it from like at the back end, I was like, oh my gosh, if she had to put that on TikTok or something, we would look like a crazy
family. Right? That's probably like every other typical family for sure.
Yeah. And if you didn't know any better, you'd be like, oh my gosh, how could she possibly be owning a teen life coach business? But honestly, in that moment, it was like beautiful, lively. We were able to chat and talk. And so I was talking to a friend of mine, and I said, oh, you know how you get these buzzwords, how parenting buzzwords, like the helicopter parenting. Yes. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to do some searching. And I looked up what the most common buzzwords for parenting styles are, why they are there, and then like, what's the truth behind it, right? So I thought that it would be interesting for you, and even though I can't see your smile, I think you'll have some inside giggles. So I thought I would share those with you. What do you think?
Absolutely. Bring it on. Go
All
ahead. Go
right,
ahead.
let's do it. So I found, believe it or not, 12 buzzwords of what parents call parents. And it's interesting because some of them are like, when I went through them, I was like, I can see a little bit of me in all of those. And then you also know the parents in the neighborhood or the HOA or wherever you are who are all of one or two of those things. So you always, listen to how people are talking or labeling, like we love to label people, don't we? So always labeling. And I was like, it really isn't about labeling. It's about how these buzzwords come about because of the different social norms and generational habits and behaviors that we come across, right?
Yeah.
So, okay, so here's I'll give you a guess on what do you think one of them might be. What's the most common one you hear?
I don't know. I
You
don't
know?
know. I got
Okay.
little ones. So,
Have you heard of helicopter parenting?
oh yeah, like hovering over. Yes,
Yes.
yes, yes,
Okay.
yes.
So the helicopter parenting was what came up the most common. So you're right. It was like that hovering,
Okay.
micromanaging, rescuing kind of thing, right? So, okay, fair enough. They say that the helicopter parenting habits or behaviors came as a result of the latchkey kids where there was like almost no parenting, right? Total free range parenting. So it's interesting that every parenting style is preceded by a completely different parenting style in the generation before that, and then how it created the behaviors of your Gen Zs or the entitled ones or whatever, right? So it's kind of interesting how it all goes in cycles. Okay,
Okay.
so that was the most common one I found. The second one I found was the lawnmower parent. So the lawnmower parent
Pushing
is the
along.
parent, right, clears the way of any possible hurdles.
Ah.
So
Ah.
that that whole scandal that came like with the what was it, like parents were trying to like get kids into college without them having to do the application process and stuff. So your drastic picture of a lawnmower parent would be like the parent who writes the college essay for the student, right?
Okay.
So they're literally removing all the possible learning barriers or opportunities to fail completely out of the way. So that's now called lawnmower parenting. Then I saw one called the Tiger Mom. Tiger Mom is about restricting kids of all social lives. Yeah, right? Like
Yeah.
all social lives, and uses emotional threats and punishment for motivation. So it's that parent you'll see in the story that goes, I swear, if you da da da, I will da da da, right?
Oh yeah.
So
Guilty. Guilty.
I had a little bit of that at some point, right? Then I saw the crunchy granola mom, and in a nutshell, they call that the hippie mom, the one who like made all the granola, didn't buy the diapers, used the class diapers, like did the whole all natural parenting thing. So that's the buzzword is the crunchy granola mom.
Never heard that one.
I've never heard that one. Then there was attachment parenting. Okay, you and I've seen this. It's where the baby it's called baby wearing. The mama has baby on their bodies 24/7, sleeps in the same bed, does everything together all the time. And they say that that's the philosophy around that is that to develop that extremely tight bond between parent and child. And there's outcomes and consequences as a result of that, maybe going overboard, right?
Yeah.
So you and I've spoken so much about codependency and stuff like that, but you have parents who have literally put their identities into their children, or the children are so dependent on the parent that they don't know how to live without them, right? So that's what could happen on the extreme side of that. Then there's this thing called no rescue parenting. So that's almost the opposite. It's like resisting the urge to swoop in and allow kids to make mistakes at all. So no rescuing whatsoever, which,
Okay.
okay, I mean, if I see a kid run into a street or they're going to put their hand on the
Well,
stove,
yeah.
right? So, okay, let's keep that in perspective. Then there's, I like this one. This one was called the Lighthouse Parent. It was the beacon of light on the shoreline. So provides structure, but also allows autonomy to make mistakes. I kind of like that one. I was like, I could subscribe to that. Then there's the free range parenting. So I'm a Gen X with my, and so I was like your classical latchkey kid. And that's what that is. It was just
Okay.
like, you go to school, you come home, there's just nobody's watching over you. You just do life, right?
Yep.
And then there was one called free play, and that's no overscheduling. So it's like, we go where we go, we do what we do, no structured scheduling at all. Then there was one called positive parenting, where parents totally keep their emotions in check and there's no threats, no timeouts at all.
Okay.
Okay. Then there's the oversharing, which is the parent who is the one who is posting every single life moment of their kids on social media.
I know a few of those. Yeah.
Right. And then the last one I found was called the pod parent. And the pod, POD, stands for play, others, or community, and downtime. So play, others, downtime, which I don't know. It doesn't feel realistic to me because there's school, there's, all these things. So when I kind of looked at these, Jill, I was like, all of them have a disparaging feel to them, right? Like judgy, like
yeah.
it's like what one parent would say about another, or it would be centered around maladjustment, like something taken too far, right? But then I went back and I was like, okay, I see that. You've got the boomers who were like, children are to be seen and not heard. So then the children who were seen and not heard became parents, and then they were like, no, my children will be seen and heard. And maybe they were just seen and heard a little bit too much. So then, right? So can you see how the one kind of starts to build and create the other? And so you've got this swinging pendulum that is constantly happening. And we're human, right? So, okay, so I look at that whole picture and then I thought to myself, well, okay, there have to be some moderating effects because culture has to play a role. Your belief system has to play a role. The neighborhood you live in, if you're an inner city parent versus a parent who's living on the farm somewhere, that's going to naturally bring forward different types of parenting behaviors or norms depending on that community, right?
Yeah.
At the same time, just like your nephew, the developmental phase or condition of the kid is also going to switch up what the parenting style is going to look like. Then you've got personality types, you've got what we call monitoring effects. So when we talk about monitoring effects in the psychology field, it's like behavioral control versus psychological control. You want to have behavioral control over kids in the socialization process, but not necessarily psychological control so that they can, develop who they're going to be as people. So when I think about socialization and parenting, all right, what is socialization, right? So socialization is this thing that we don't think about. We take it for granted because the structure of our community kind of naturally happens. But when you break it down and you think about like, okay, it's about protection, right? I socialize my kid in a place in a way that protects them and also teaches them how to protect themselves.
Okay.
There's a level of control, right? So we have to understand that there are rules and structures that we have to live by. There's guided learning. I mean, you think about schools, communities, doing things together, group participation, all the skills and the stuff that we have to learn, right? So all of that is around socialization, which sounds pretty easy until they become teenagers.
I can't wait to learn about this. You know firsthand. I had the 5 and 7-year-old for those that don't know. And yours are how old, Liesel?
60, 19, and 21.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bring us up to date. What can we expect?
Yeah. So now the teenager arrives on the scene, and I decided to take this like precursor, I guess, and like the socialization part that seems easy when they're little. And I'm like, let me put the teenage voice in front of this. Okay. So if I were a teenager with a ton of wisdom and taking everything I just said in context, my bet is a teenager will say something like, Mom, your parenting style will predict how I accept being socialized. So if your parenting style is no support but high demands, I am going to meet you right there, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to then want more support or not accept any support, and I'm going to reject all demands. So now a parent needs to sit back and go, okay, where is the balance based on where I live, where my child is at, what the personality systems are like, what kind of community structure do we have? All right. So let's assume two factors. One is high support and high demand. So let's assume both of those things are present. All right. So I'm a mom and I'm saying, okay, I expect these things of you, but I also support you in doing X, Y, and Z. So now go back to the kid's voice. Your parenting style, Mom. So your high demand but high support will determine how I accept being socialized, which means I know I have support.
Yeah.
Therefore, I can go with the demands that you're making of me, and we will feel out that thing together because there's a trust and a trust built in, right? The moment there's too much demand or too little support, or too much support and too little demand, then that could be an issue. So I'm going to pull up this slide.
Okay, good. We could share now.
Our listeners can't see it, but it will be on our
cast. Yep.
Can you see it?
I see it. Wow. Here we go.
Okay. So look at those two green parts, high support and high demand. So now you have a teenager who will say, how you parent, Mom, will determine my level of autonomy and agency. So agency is, how do I believe what I can control? To what extent am I in control of what I can achieve and do? So in an environment where support is high and the demand is high, it means that there's this reciprocal feeling of, I want to do this, but I need support in order to be successful in doing it. Or I know I'm probably going to fail in doing this, but I know I have the support that's going to help me like build or learn to what I need to do differently, right? So can you see that in the light of high support and high demand, there is a mutual respect and trust that is developed, because you have to know that there is conflict between parents and teenagers. There has to be conflict because the teenager is pushing boundaries. The teenager is going, I want to see what that looks like. I want to feel what that looks like. And yes, I might fail. Yes, it might be a little bit unnerving for both of us, but I need to go and see and feel these things. If I know I have your support, but I also am clear on how I was socialized around the structure, the demands, and the expectations on me. As you can see on the slide there, it shows that the children with the highest self-esteem, self-reliance, and social competence have warm, concerned, authoritative parents. So research shows over and over and over again that authoritative parenting is the most successful model, or buzzword, in the case of the helicopter.
I'm smiling, I'm laughing internally because it hurts to laugh. I gotcha.
Yeah, right. So tiger mom, granola mom, whatever, all of those, sure. But if those two things, the support and the demand, are absent in any of those buzzwords, there's going to be a complete imbalance. So let's, for example, look at the authoritarian parent in contrast. An authoritarian parent shows very little support, but very high demand. So the relationship is controlling. Here comes helicopter parent. The relationship is all about power, right? Here comes the tiger mom, right? Or no rescue parenting. All of those other buzzwords are showing what those other three axes are showing on that slide. Let's look at the one that is both undemanding and unsupportive parenting. That's the rejecting, neglecting parent. That's the no, the free play or the free range, or the, let's see, attachment parenting, maybe. No, that could be the opposite, actually. The no rescue parenting or the pod parenting, that shows like very little support in both of those places, right?
Yeah.
And then the one that's the most interesting to me is where we have permissive parenting, and that is the parent is supportive, like, hey, yeah, I'm cool, right? And I'm here to support you and cheer you on, but they also don't expect anything back, right? So from that perspective, and you and I have spoken about this a lot, that's where the codependency comes in. That's where the I'm going to be the cool parent comes in. That's the one that says, I'm going to control you through being the cool parent, right? Yeah. And then the kid is left with being like confused. Where do I stand? So I really wanted to bring this up today because as you can see there, the authoritarian parent, which is unsupportive but highly demanding, they have less, those teenagers have less social skills and self-esteem, and those with, that's authoritarian. And then the permissive parents tend to be more aggressive and immature. So it's like, trust the research. And yes, we can have buzzwords at the yin yang, but I would challenge the parents to bump it up against this model. And just for everybody's reference sake, it was developed by Diana Baumrind, Baumrind. She developed this model, which has been really, really, really helpful. I'll tell you, when I am working with parents, I bring up this slide a lot, and I say, okay, tell me where you think you are. And then I will challenge them on, well, you say this, now where do you think that fits, right? Yeah. So that I thought was really interesting, really cool, because we use these buzzwords all the time, but we don't think about it, like, where does it bump up against what the research is, right?
Wow. Yeah, I see myself in a little of every of them.
Yeah.
But is there one answer to what's the best way of parenting?
So I guess we have to develop a buzzword for high support, high demand, right?
Yes.
I wonder, because that lighthouse parent, that one that says provides the structure and also allows autonomy to make mistakes. I feel like that one meets those criteria the most. All right. I think. And then that's what I would, like, if I had to pick one of those buzzwords that kind of fit that, I would say that lighthouse parent would probably be the closest. But outside of that, I've not heard a buzzword that actually taps into that particular part of parenting style, where there's, the opportunity for a relationship between a teen and the parent to be reciprocal, for it to be responsive, for like coming back to our dinner the other night, being able to debate.
I would like to see a copy of that, by the way.
Oh, sure. I'll send it to you. But the debate between our voices can rise, we can laugh about it, we can banter, we can, but at the end of it all, there is a bi-directional communication. There's a yes, we're in this like conflict or debate, but there is a high respect, mutual respect in terms of what's over the line, and also how far can a teenager push the line during that conversation, right? So Yeah, so that's my spiel for you today.
You got a great spiel. I love it. And with the notes and how prepared and organized you are, I'm glad you had a lot to talk about because that means I didn't have to talk as much, which isn't painful, but it just sounds horrible. So thank you. Wow. And of course, you're teaching us everything here as well. Liezel, now you got to tell us, how do we contact you, of course, and how can we reach out to you for further help?
Yes, absolutely. So you can call me at 770-235-8202. My assistant will be happy to help set up an exploratory call with you. You can also text us on that exact same number. And you can contact me at my name, liezel.lane@myteenlifecoach.com, and also our website. And if you just punch in those names or words in Google, it will take you right there.
Great. Thank you so much. Pleasure seeing you. And are we going to meet soon? I hope.
I have a call with Ashley scheduled tomorrow morning. So
awesome. Let's figure it out. Good. I think hopefully you'll come in on a weekend. So I'll see you on a Saturday, I hope.
Absolutely.
All right. Perfect. Thank you so much. Thanks for being here. As always, you're just a gem. Pleasure to speak with you.
Take care of you and feel better, Jill.
I will. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house.
And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.